All right, my English teacher friends, I have an exciting workshop for you today in which I call Royal Rumble to Be Verb Exercise. And I know in the AP circles that there's a lot of talk and frustration about the elusive sophistication point. And even with my on-level students, I'm approaching the question a little different. And my question is this: what are the impediments to sophistication? What preclude kids from being sophisticated writers? And one area that I work on across the board, not just my AP students, but with my on-level students, is their to-be verb usage. I have found that when students get imbued and hunkered into extensive, excessive to be verb usage, that it not only indicates a very weak vocabulary, but it belies their uncertainty as writers, their lack of confidence. And it just becomes really kind of mired down in simplistic language. So, what I have for us in this workshop is a really fun gamified edutainment exercise that helps kids focus on how often they are using to be verbs and how to minimize them, not to 100% eliminate them because it's a building block verb, but to minimize them to have more active voice. So let's jump right in. Here's what I have students do right out of the gate. I have them write down on a piece of paper all the forms of to be. So they are as follows: was, were, am, is, are, been, being, and be. So just have your students write those down. And then I like to tell my students a couple of stories as to why it's really important to minimize your to be verb usage and give them some context. So, back in undergraduate school, I took a sociology of deviant behavior class. And in that class, I learned that in interrogation scenes, when a suspect is brought in to be questioned by detectives, detectives linguistically are trained to listen to the amount of to be verbs used by the suspect. And apparently, if a suspect gets really hunkered into excessive to be verb usage, it belies the fact that they most likely are lying. So when someone's talking and they get going, was, were, am, is, are, been, being, be, it's like, ooh, indicator, antennae go up, you're lying. So why is that important in composition? Well, I know firsthand that when my students write about books or short stories or poems that they've never read, by default, they get using the building block verb, and their papers have a ton of to be verbs in it. So they're lying in a sense. They're pretending to write about something that they know very well, but they haven't spent the time to read it. The other thing that it belies is the fact that students have very, very small vocabs, and they also have a lack of confidence with whatever the topic matter is that they're trying to write about. So, one way to shore up how to kind of change the language up the tier to alter the sentence constructs is to focus on these to be verbs and limit them. Just try to minimize them as much as possible. So moving on, here's something that happens when students focus on their to be verbs. Not only does the vocab augment, so students are forced to use deeper, more powerful tier 2 level words, but their sentence constructs also change. I find that struggling and emerging writers typically use 2 to 3 of the 12 sentence constructs that Strunk and White purport are in rule number 18, the idea that there are 12 different ways to cobble together a single sentence. So vocab goes up, but the sentence constructs also vary when you begin to focus on the to be's. So, how do we play this game? Here's what we do: the setup and the guidelines. I split the class into 2 teams, right? Because we're going to be playing Rock'em Sock'em Boxing Robobox here. So, I have a blue team and a red team. And what I'm going to do is present students with mentor sentences that are loaded with to be verbs. So each sentence has like 3 or 4 to be verbs in it. The goal is every student is going to revise that sentence, and you can split it into 2 sentences, 3 sentences, it doesn't matter. You're just going to keep the essence of the sentence. And in the revision, you cannot use a single to be verb whatsoever. And I have a participation quota. So let's say on the blue team, the students are looking at all the revisions and they're like, let's submit to Mr. Kuhn Peters because Peters is the best. Peter can no longer submit after he submits one. And on the red team, Samantha submits hers. So Peter and Samantha are now off limits. That way, you get a wide variety of writing. Kids have to participate, they have to revise, and their work is being looked at. And then what I do is I'm the referee as the teacher. So the red team will submit their revision, the blue team, and we'll project them on the overhead. And I'll say which one I think is the better revision and why, and award that particular team the point. So I have a PowerPoint that I use for this, and it's powerpointgames.uk. This guy is a genius with the PowerPoint, so I recommend that you go and take a look at his stuff. Most of it's free. For copyright reasons, I'm giving credit to him. It is his PowerPoint, and it is called Robobox. So here it is. I took a little snapshot of it, and you can get a sense of how it works. But it works just like a real rock'em sock'em boxing ring. And so you can just award punches based on the revisions and proceed that way. So let me show you my mentor sentences and give you a sense of what I do here. So typically I have 10 rounds, so 10 mentor sentences, and they look very much like this one right here. So round number 1 says, once when I was being Susie's boyfriend, we were each other's date to the prom when we were juniors in high school. So you can see here you have was, being, were, and were. All the mentor sentences, I've highlighted the to be verbs in red. And then just to Bob Ross it to give kids a sense of how to revise it, you want to get all the to be verbs out in the revisions, no to be verbs whatsoever. So I did this one and I wrote, back during my junior year of high school, I went to the prom with my girlfriend at the time, Susie. So you can see here the sentence constructs change, the vocab augments a little bit, even find myself using a dash, right? So this is the kind of stuff that we want to get into. Complex sentence constructs, academic diction from start to finish, good, crisp, clear diction, right? So very accurate, precise diction. So number 2 reads like this. Back when I was just being a kid of 6 years old, my grandfather bought me a guitar given that it was Christmas. So in this one, you have 3. And again, students as a team will rewrite that, and the best revision gets submitted to the referee, and we will decide which team has the better revision. So I'll show you all 10 here just to give you a sense. Round 3. Because I was eating like a kid who was starved, I was in a position whereby I was choking on a hot dog. So you have was, right? Too much was in there. Number 4, my dog is a chocolate lab and he is 15 years old. Because he is so old, he has to be fed soft food because he's now without teeth. And again, just loaded with to be verbs. And oftentimes students write this way and it just bogs them down, it muddies the water. Too passive, too small, too uncertain. So we'll beef it up and get rid of the to be verbs. Round 5. When I was a little kid, just being too stupid to be any wiser, I believed a priest who told me that thunder and lightning was just God being a good bowler up in heaven. So you have was, be, was, being. In round 6, being curious as to why I'm not a meat eater, Susie was asking me a lot of questions about my diet and how one can be vegetarian. So again, all of these just are way bogged down with to be verb constructions. And one of the questions students ask is this, Mr. Kuhn, can I ever use a to be verb again in my life? And it's like, yes, you can. So it's a building block verb. Sometimes you have to use it, but the idea is to minimize its use. Round 7. Given that I am a coffee snob, I only like beans that have been grown on the African continent where it is hot and where it is best suited to grow coffee. So again, most of these have, an abundance of to be's just on a hyperbolic level to illustrate the point and make it easier. As we proceed through these, I make them more difficult because I expect students to grow and mature as writers and mastery in this skill. Round 8. I often dream about being a really good drummer, but I will never be one. I'm not the type of person who is much into practicing. In round 9, my grandfather is hard of hearing because he used to be in what is known as a heavy metal band, and they were notoriously known for being a band that cranked their music way too loud. So lots of to be's there. And again, in the revision, no to be's. Get rid of them all. Keep the essence of the sentence, keep the essence of the expression, but get rid of the to be's. In round 10, if I were to be, if I were to one day be the president of the country, it would be my first duty to be the one to ban TikTok because TikTok is known to be bad for kids. And that's how you play Rock'em Sock'em Royal Rumble to be verb boxing. So, all right, let's wrap this up. As most of you know, I'm a lead teacher for the National Writing Project, and we offer professional development throughout the calendar year. If you're interested in anything that I do in terms of my nuance academies, word study academies, AP strategies for success, go to my website, teachinghowtowrite.com. In that upper banner, there's a tag there that says my NWP courses. We offer a ton throughout the year. So some are for free, some are for a nominal fee, but all of them give you participation badges, especially for those teachers in states that need PD hours for your credentials. So give that a look. If you need to reach out to me for any reason, just have a question, comment, concern, teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com. That is it for me. Happy teaching, happy writing, and I hope all is well and that this exercise serves you and your students well and you enjoy it. Take care.